I wanted to ask a little bit about the fact that like it seems, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but the center to right media is really hyper focused on the morality judgment, and we're not really talking about things like critical race theory or systemic oppression or historical oppression. And I know maybe that's not something that you want to go down into the weeds too much with when it comes down to like critical race theory, but
Do you support critical race theory?
do I support it?
Do you
Yeah.
believe it? So do you don't think that racism can
Do
be
I believe
solved
it's real?
through? You don't think that racism can be solved through liberalism and democracy?
As in that's going to solve racism altogether?
No, no. I'm saying you don't think that a liberal democratic government and society can solve the issues of racism.
On its own, no. Of course not. So far it
I mean,
hasn't.
on its
I mean,
own.
we've had quite a bit of time.
Let's define racism or systemic racism first, because that's going to be important.
Well, okay. Wait,
Okay,
what-
well, you guys, okay, so yeah, when I say critical race theory, do you guys reference it into like I've seen Charlie Kirk's take on critical race theory, and it was kind of out there.
I mean, I'm referencing in terms of reading what Derek Bell has said, so I'm not sure what Charlie Kirk's take on it is.
Yeah, don't trigger Sitch. He doesn't like Charlie Kirk.
I don't like Charlie Kirk
Why don't you like Charlie Kirk?
because he's a partisan hack.
Yeah,
That might be the first thing we agree on, gentlemen.
I'm not right wing, serfs.
but you
No,
you
I didn't. I
but
didn't
serfs,
assume this
you
were
seem
accurate.
like a partisan hack. That's
Yeah.
our contention with you. Like
Oh.
you're motivated
Oh.
reasoning all to hell here, instead of
Shots
just looking
fired.
at the facts. Or, well, prove us wrong. I'm dying to see you prove us wrong.
Well, you
I just see you
asked
prove
us.
you wrong.
You asked us why we're interested in this topic is because usually when these kinds of situations happen, it's very, the videos are vague enough. There's enough uncertainty that both sides of the narrative can kind of create their own story. They can fill the gaps. But with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, the reason that fascinates me is that it seems to me and a lot of people that it's so obviously one-sided
Yeah,
that to
crystal
see
clear.
people turn around and try to concoct a narrative about it is just so fascinating.
Yeah, it is super fascinating. It's amazing.
So it's to you, it's just self defense, be all end all. That's the start and the end of it.
Well,
Yeah,
you
based on
agree
all
with
that
us.
we've seen. Yes.
You agree with us about the person who is escalating is in the wrong. You agree. You virtually said it here, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with reasons why Kyle Rittenhouse is the aggressor, because you can't change that. That's like a fact of morality.
Got him.
It's true. It's true. So what do you want? What Sitch, do you want to go into the critical race theory and stuff like that? I mean,
I'm not super. I'm
Yeah,
just
I know, it's
curious.
like-
I just think it's so interesting because critical race theory is so anti-liberalism and democracy. I mean, I don't know if you're against liberalism and democracy, but
I love democracy, gentlemen. I'm all for it.
Yeah, you
I'm-
want it
I'm-
in the
I'm-
full
workplace.
Sith pill.
let freedom reign.
Yes.
I'm definitely for it. There's no memes there. I love some democracy. There's no problem with that whatsoever. I don't think that your quote liberal democracy has solved the problems of racism or is working towards ultimately ending the problems of racism. I think the problem with systemic racism in the United States is that things are getting decidedly worse, especially for the Black population. I mean, how do you measure like median wealth or just like accrued wealth of like a demographic?
so if not through liberal democracy, how can we solve it?
You kind of ignore my question. I can move on to yours though, but
Well, I asked you first and you didn't really answer it. So
you hadn't asked me how do we solve it.
yeah, I said you agree that liberal democracy can't solve it, and 10 minutes ago, and then you said yes, and I said, well, how? And then we kind of moved on to another subject.
How do we solve racism? Is that the question?
If not through using a liberal democracy, okay,
Yeah,
what form of
policy,
government should
voting.
we have to fix?
Why does it have to be forms of government? Okay, so anyways,
Well, that's what
Let's-
critical race theory is literally about. It's about the legal structure,
no, it's
not the form of government.
no.
It was created by lawyers in the 80s.
It's created by lawyers.
Why
It
are you
was,
laughing? It was.
It was created by Derek Bell, who was
Right.
who was a professor, I believe, at New York University.
He was a
at the
legal
time.
professor.
He was a legal professor,
Yeah.
yes, but that wasn't as if lawyers were creating critical race theory.
Okay,
He was an academic
I
who was creating
I
critical race
retract
theory.
the statement if that's how you're going to characterize it. I understand.
Well, no, that's just what happened. But
Derek
either
Bell,
way, yeah,
American lawyer, according to Wikipedia. But okay.
yeah. But again, writing as an academic on this forefront, not writing as like he's
Gotcha, I
not publishing this
understand.
within like the legal.
Why do you
scholars.
want to talk
Gotcha.
about tell me why you want to talk about
Well,
critical
wait
race
a minute.
theory.
Wait a minute. So
why would I want to bring any of this up? Because I think this is really pertinent to the situation, especially when it comes to this, when it comes to like the protesters versus the riots. Like ultimately, on both sides of the aisle, I'm guessing you probably want like riots to stop, as do I, right? Like I don't want, you know, people's homes or property or stuff like that to be burning to the ground. I don't like the chaos in the streets, stuff like that. I think that's ultimately what we're both trying to achieve, right?
Sure. Yeah. Let's work together.
Yeah, of course. So if at the end of the day, why don't we look at like the causality first off of what's causing these problems, why people are feeling the need, what is the provoking measure that starts and ignites every single Black Lives Matter protest that's been happening around the United States? It's usually because of the cops killing a member of the Black community, and it's also because there's a huge disproportionate amount of equality between these groups, and it's exacerbating it to the point where you will get protests in the streets. The protesters, by the way, by large part, are nonviolent. In fact, if you look at the statistics, I think 93% of all of these protests have been nonviolent in nature, and that's talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Like that's a really, really large encompassing amount of people to have achieved that. And sorry, I'm not going to try not to gish gallop here. I want to pull it back to being able to answer some of these questions.
Disparity in wealth, Sitch. You want to take
what was
that?
the question? I don't remember. It was too long ago.
Well, he's basically saying that the protests in the streets are a result of disparity in wealth. Well, he's making two arguments. He's saying that the disparity in wealth is driving it, and the spark is the unjustified. Well, you can argue whether or not it's justified.
I mean, yeah, I would imagine disparity in wealth has been driving this. I'd imagine COVID is driving this. I mean, look, I'm the guy who's the big proponent that all of our political problems right now are the genesis of this is the housing crash. So sure, I'm sure all these multiple things have drive people to be very angry. And
how do we fix disparity in wealth?
How do we fix disparity in wealth? Well, there's one thing that I think we haven't done in the United States, and again, I'm just coming at this as a guy from a made-up country, but when it comes
true,
we finally agree.
When it comes down to something, though, there has not been reparations in the U.S., to my understanding, right? There has not really been
We have a Canadian here arguing for reparations in the United States.
I know.
We have a Canadian that wants my tax dollars to go to reparations.
Yes,
look at this.
Absolutely.
Look at the presumptuousness of this.
I know.
Right here.
Hey,
you know what I want Canada to spend their money on? I want Canada to spend
their exact same thing.
I want Canada to spend their money on puppy dogs, okay?
Maybe look, both me and Adam are in favor of UBI, okay? We were on Yang Gang.
Yeah, totally.
You're both Yang Gangers, both of you?
Yeah.
Was that for anything outside of the UBI?
Oh my God! Listen, this is why he wants to talk about critical race theory. The only reason he wants to talk about critical race theory is so he can go on the internet and call people racist. It's so fucking evil. It's so fucking evil.
How
dude.
are you guys such snowflakes? Don't cuck out right now. Come on, you can't get upset just because I'm asking questions.
Wait, I'm
but
so
you're just
I
so
don't understand what just
disingenuous.
happened.
You're totally disingenuous
so
about
confused.
everything. What do you mean you're so confused? Look,
what was the insinuation that just
basically?
happened?
I am saying the only reason he wants to talk about critical race theory is so he like this guy has a track record of going on the internet, like doing a debate on race, going to the internet, and calling whoever he debates some sort of racist or homophobe or sexist. That's like his total MO, Sitch. Like that's what he wants to do. That's,
well, I mean, he
that's
did
his
do that
thing.
with Sean.
He did do that, yeah. And he's like he's virtually here. He's virtually here
about something
admitting
related to Kenosha.
He's virtually here.
The entire thing is to harvest like clips. Is that it?
Well, you harvested the clips that we did on. Look, we began this stream talking about the clip that you harvested off of our first debate. Yes. Sitch and I have had our media training classes.
This is so bizarre.
We're not going to say anything incendiary, all right?
Incendiary. If I had a conversation with anyone on the street, I just pulled them on and I was like, hey, can we discuss this thing? If their response to me is like, you're just harvesting me for racist comments.
Well, you basically just admit.
What the fuck are you talking about? I just want to talk to you about this issue.
So are you worried that in the
conversation you're going to say something racist? That's on you. That's not on me.
Hold on.
This isn't a harvesting moment. I'm not like trying to set up the scenario in which you can do this.
Lance, this whole thing began because you made the insinuation that we had some racist intent for being for Andrew Yang.
When did I say that? Citation needed. But please go on.
Please back up the stream. You said
back up the stream. I said, did you support Andrew Yang because
for
of the
any
UBI
other
thing?
for any
How is
other
that
reason,
racist?
any other
How is-
reason that
how
you
is
might,
Where does race come into this?
any
This is
other
so weird.
reason that
Why are
you might
pulling
support
this?
Andrew
Okay, so-
Yang?
Yeah, other policies he might have. Does he have other policies?
That's not
beyond
what you
UBI
meant.
that you
Dude,
were interested. That's the
That
lie.
is not remotely what you meant. That is not remotely what you meant. You know what you meant. Everyone in the chat knows what you meant.
All right, fine. All right, let's. Okay,
We all know that the
got him.
mainstream
Yeah,
counter
no, I know.
narrative
Exposed.
Andrew Yang. We all know the
Exposed.
mainstream counter narrative with Andrew Yang. Okay, evidently you
I
can't
didn't
support.
until now. I didn't know that was a race issue. Like I was curious.
People were
if-
saying
Dude,
that
I was
no
curious.
one-
What
Lance-
besides
Lance-
UBI? What
Lance-
besides UBI in his policies? You like
Lance,
name it right now. Name
No
it,
one,
and then
Lance,
prove,
you're not winning any
prove
Academy
me the
Awards
harvester.
here. Okay,
prove
Lance,
me
you're
the,
not.
the
Lance,
organ harvester right
Lance, you're not
what-
winning any Academy Awards here. I'm sure you've talked about Andrew Yang
All right.
on many streams. I'm sure there's probably streams on your channel of you tar and feathering Andrew Yang as a racist. Okay, are you saying that this is the first time you've ever heard Andrew Yang is somehow?
as an id poll? Yeah, weird. It would come from your side of the aisle, but yeah, no, this is the
Oh
first
wait,
time I've
this
heard
is-
it.
okay. So I understand. I understand. The problem is, I guess you're not familiar. There was many articles that was saying that the alt-right supported Andrew Yang. And that he
Sitch.
was
Oh,
basis
for the
of
memes
white
and the
nationalism.
4chan shit, and then
Oh look!
yeah, no.
Look!
I
He's
genuinely had
magically
nothing to do with it.
magically remembering now. He magically
I
remembered
genuinely,
it.
I genuinely had no ill intent. I was curious if it was for UBI because that's the reason why a lot of people liked Andrew Yang was for the UBI. And
Well,
fuck, why
hold on
wouldn't
a
you?
second.
$1,000 in your pocket.
Hold on.
That
Hold
sounds
on a
great.
second.
Awesome.
Hold on a
But
second.
what are the other
We
policies
began the
besides that you were interested
conversation
in?
with UBI. You were asking if there was any other reason for UBI. Now you're saying.
Is there
now
another-
you're saying
is there
it
anything
was
else about
UBI
Andrew
and the
Yang?
other reason was UBI.
Where the fuck is the race card coming in all this? This is so bizarre. Like you're saying that I'm some kind of a race card harvester. You're the one changing the conversation. When you
You're
say
the one that brought
Andrew
it up.
Yang, UBI, like my assumption is that you would be like, well, we also like blank. Like,
Give me
what else
some
about
other.
him?
Give me some other policies from Andrew Yang aside from.
Okay, absolutely.
aside from UBI.
How about automation? All right. How about the fact that what is it? Truckers apparently we're going to be losing trucking jobs once automation
Sure.
takes over the trucking
Right.
industry. So we're going to have to do something very significant, such as taxing the robots, things of that nature.
You sound
that
like
was an
an
idea brought to the forefront
Lance,
by
are
Andrew
you
Yang,
Yang
and I
Gang?
like that. And
Are
I like
you
that.
Yang
It's a good
Gang?
idea.
I
Are
liked
you-
elements of Andrew Yang. I would prefer him. I would have preferred him to Joe Biden by a large margin. I'd like Andrew Yang at least was bringing some of those issues to the forefront. There's things I don't like about Andrew Yang as well. But are you still stuck on this? Like, do you still genuinely believe if I brought up Andrew Yang to get a gotcha out of you? Because like that, like I mean, that wasn't a viral clip, but I'm guessing now people are probably clipping it because that's kind of an unusual path to have gone down.
What are you talking? Well, I don't. What do you mean? You're the one that brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
I asked, is there another reason why you like Andrew Yang? As in, like, what else about him? Like, what other policies did he have? Not whether or not he's Asian.
He's the only candidate bringing up UBI and automation. So automation is a huge problem.
I like
obviously,
that he wants
All
to
of-
reduce student loan. I like that
Yeah.
he wants a Medicare overhaul.
yeah,
That
he's
was
he's
that
the
was
one.
the
Remember,
ans-
remember
that
when
was
you
the
said
answer I was looking for before things got real weird.
Remember when you
You know?
said income inequality was a big deal? Andrew Yang is the only one talking about dealing with income inequality.
I
through
agree.
UBI,
Those
so
were things I liked about Andrew Yang. That's one of the reasons why I would have preferred him to Joe Biden.
It's
you
a
know?
shame that Vosh and others like him went out and called Andrew Yang a racist and shit like that.
Vosh called Andrew Yang a racist. Like, again, citation needed.
I'm sure people can dig it up.